Furnware was started in 1934, so it's a real icon in Hastings. It made numerous products, right from school furniture was the core business, through to kitchens, police truncheons, coffins, caravans, had a big caravan division. My wife and I bought the business in 1993 from some gentlemen that had bought it from Fletcher's, and that was when the Tomorrow Schools had started.
That meant that Furnware had to approach the schools directly as opposed to going through a government department.
So from having one relationship in Wellington, that was an annual meeting to get the tenders, we had to suddenly go out and know where our market was.
So that involved a big change for Furnware. We had to develop a team of representatives who knew about furniture, and it also meant that the responsibility for design and research came back onto us as a manufacturer as opposed to being fed those from government.
So research and development became crucial to our survival. We could no longer rely on what the government had told us that it wanted, because now we had schools that could make their own decisions. So we started looking around the world. We used the internet. I used to go to a lot of shows all around the world, and I could see not a lot of difference to what we were doing in New Zealand.
Such as in Britain, the government's committed £5 billion to refurbishing all of their schools, and we made a connection with the head of that project and found that we were well ahead of where they were at in certain parts of the research.
So that's when we decided, well, we've got to do it ourselves.
It was to some extent a big gamble, but we realised that there was an opportunity not only for us here in New Zealand but to also develop this product for overseas markets.
So we started this journey. I got Murray Pilcher involved. Murray, who and I had met in his days at Unitech.
They couldn't just make another chair. They wouldn't get the return on the investment they had to make if it was just another chair, because they're going to be fighting on price the whole time.
Murray was a very clever industrial designer that understood education. He understood students and all the science of the human body.
I said to Hamish, we're going to need some information about the school population. I'm going to need to look at ergonomic publications, research papers, really scout the territory out, because we need to be innovative over and above just making a new copy of one of your existing chairs.
Murray said to me, so how big are they? And I went, well, I don't know. All we know is the students were far bigger than we imagined. We knew there were issues with the desks floating on top of their legs. They weren't even having their feet on the ground. And Murray said, so, what's the breakdown in ethnicity mixes? I mean, do we understand that New Zealand's a very multicultural place? And he basically said, we've got to start from scratch. So the first thing we did was we weren't going to design the chair, we were going to go and research.
We went right to where the products were being used, and that was with the students and with the teachers.
So that's when we started this whole relationship to another level with schools.
By doing the research, that whole notion of, hey, we can make a substantial difference in the classroom. We can stop selling chairs and we can start selling classroom management systems. And that really came about by getting in and getting involved with the users.
Research told us there should be more than one height of desk and chair in any one classroom.
Whereas the traditional approach in New Zealand and Australia has always been the size of the furniture is the class that they're in. And of course the irony of that is you've got 12-year-old boys that are sort of 1.25 metres tall and 12-year-old boys that are 1.8 metres tall.
We put this to teachers and immediately there was an absolute barrier. No way we're going to have more than one height of desk and chair.
We told them the ergonomic story and we brought in the emotional stuff of, well, look, we have a New Zealand study that says that 25% of New Zealand students suffer chronic neck and back pain. And overseas studies support it and go as high as 40%.
There are a couple of issues that we did think reasonably carefully about as a staff. One is the fact that it's a different environment to have all the desks at different heights, particularly working in groups. And the other was we weren't sure whether it might exacerbate bullying and teasing of students, because selecting a small desk and chair for a short student could be something quite difficult to do in front of their peers.
Once we did the trials, it was common sense, and I caught the head nodding. I mean, everyone's going, you're right, why haven't we done this before? It was like we'd reinvented the wheel.
The short children love them because for the first time ever, they've got a desk and a chair that fits them, and they feel like they actually belong in that place.
We had From my recollection, no issues at all about students teasing each other. They understood what we were doing, they brought into the process and saw that it made really good sense.
I had a bit of an argument with the lady when she came back, said, "We'd like to have our sample back now, please." And I said, "No, I'm sorry, you can't have it. I'm not going back to sitting in those chairs."
We didn't have information on the sizes of students, and neither do the schools have that. So we measured 20,000 students, measuring their height, weight, and recording their ethnicity and so on.
So we adapted a height and weight scale. That would read straight into the spreadsheet program.
From there, we've been able to develop a recipe for every classroom in the country. So we just need to be asked, for example, to supply a year 5 in a particular school, and we can come up with the sizes that should go into that room.
And so schools were ringing up Furnware going, "Oh, I hear you're measuring kids. I hear you've got this stuff. Can you try it in our school?"
Because this is obviously the question, how do you know how many chairs to buy, how many desks to buy? And we know that their answers are based on research.
So we now produce 6 sizes of chair, and the student determines which is the correct size by using a height chart that we put up in the classroom. So if they fit within the yellow band, then they go and sit at a chair with a yellow mark on it, so they know they're sitting correctly. With a chair that allows a person to move on it, you're going to get far less distraction in the classroom, and they indicated that 15% of teaching time could be saved or used more effectively if the seating moved.
When your child starts crawling, then they start climbing trees, then they're playing in the playground, and then they turn 5, so they go to school, they walk into the classroom and the teacher says, "Sit still." I mean, that's not where we're meant to be.
I've taught for 13 odd years, and what I perceived as behaviour problems, I now see as comfort issues.
The challenge was make this chair move without moving parts.
Any moving part in a classroom, I mean, we've already seen with gas lift chairs, I mean, the knobs just disappear and they've gone home in the bag at night. And there's a real issue with maintenance. And so I said, whatever you design has to be bulletproof.
And it was really him saying, well, basically, show me, and if it works, we'll do it.
It's probably difficult to quantify just how much it improves student outcomes, but it certainly does make a significant difference. Of that, I have no doubts whatsoever.
The productivity of the teacher improves because they're not having to deal with discipline issues with kids leaning back on their desks and tipping over and distracting the one next to them because of it, and they just get settled back down and the next one starts, and so they're not dealing with those kinds of issues, so they can be far more productive and efficient in their teaching.
The children here are all sat in their chairs, they're ready to go, they're not fidgeting around, everything fits.
If children can move during the class day, they will retain what they're learning right into the early part of the afternoon. The body furniture is going to be the definitive statement about where school furniture starts. Not where it finishes, where it starts.
As a school, we're not about looking for the cheapest option. We're about student learning and a focus on students, and that really made the decision quite easy.
We started the process, we were looking at a $30 to $40 chair, which was slightly more expensive than an existing school chair. And we've ended up at $109, and we can't make enough.
Now, you can't put a price on the value of innovative research and research that has the effect of changing the client's perception of what they need in their classrooms, in this case.
We now see ourselves as being a futuristic company. We believe design, we embrace design. We've seen that if we research it and we do it properly, that it will be successful, that the commercial risk is minimal if you've done the research. Furnware's productivity has increased tenfold because we have got the product range down to a smaller niche, and the schools just can't buy enough. So we are just 24 hours a day making desks and chairs, and that reflects back in the factory. We're just seeing guys making thousands and thousands and thousands of one product. So we're getting all the efficiencies you could ever get in manufacturing. I mean, we are as competitive as anywhere in the world, and now the world's our oyster.